So my name is Sam Peter. I look after education initiatives at Google, and I'm here to talk about cloud computing today. So many of us are in the cloud already today, but we might not realize it. We might have Gmail or Hotmail or Yahoo Mail accounts where we access our emails. We might share our photographs via Picasso or Flickr. You know, I'm going to New York next week and I put all my favorite restaurants on Google Maps so I can access them when I'm out there from my mobile phone. The cloud is a phenomena that many of us are familiar with already today, where we access our information online. We see three real vectors of innovation that are driving the cloud computing phenomena. The first one is the falling cost of storage. Today, every 13 months, they say that the same amount of information can be stored in half amount of the space. So basically, the same amount of space holds double the amount of information. Not only that, but by every 5 years, the cost of storage is also falling by an eighth. So 5 years ago, 2 gigabytes worth of storage cost €2.50. Today, the same amount of storage costs 30 cents. That's about an eighth of the cost that it was. So basically, the falling cost of storage is something that's key to driving this cloud computing revolution. It enables companies like Google and Yahoo and Microsoft to be able to offer storage to our users at a very low cost. Also, broadband is becoming ubiquitous. Today in the UK, there's over 75% of broadband penetration. It's predicted by 2010 that 60% of the mobile phones in Europe will be 3G compatible. So that's accessing a whole load of information via very many mediums very easily. But what I think is also driving this cloud computing revolution is the content generation that's happening today, democratizing the tools of production. Everyone's a publisher in some way or the other. Every day, 120,000 blogs are created. 11,000 hours worth of video are uploaded onto YouTube, and 3.7 million photos are uploaded onto Flickr. I think this illustrates that the revolution's not happening on the margins of society. The revolution's here today, and we're all a part of it. So I think that kind of illustrates, and things that, you know, one thing that I think everyone in this room will agree with is that consumer technology is just evolving at a huge pace. You know, it continues to innovate, and it continues to innovate very quickly. But what we've seen is that enterprise technology and education technology has struggled to keep up with this consistent pace of innovation that's happening in the consumer space. Many of you might relate to this picture. Maybe this is what your infrastructure in your company looks like today. Very complex, difficult to maintain, hard to deploy. Software is very much the same way as well. It's becoming more and more expensive, very complex, hard to maintain, and once you get the whole system up and running, well, what happens? You know, it crashes, and then you spend a lot of time patching. What this means to many of our partners is that a lot of money is being spent just keeping the lights on, just trying to keep everything up and running. Gartner, an analyst, predicted that 8 in every $10 of IT spend today was literally that. It was just spent to kind of keep the ball running, which left very little money for innovation. You know, 8 in $10 of the spend was just literally to keep the lights on. Lost one already. Another challenge of, you know, from our user perspective is that, you know, collaboration is something that's very, very challenging. So most of the tools that we have today were built for individual productivity. But more and more today in the workplace and in academia, it's important to be able to work in groups. And that's something that's very challenging in this space. So to give a real-life example of that, and to talk about how Google can help, we think that we can bring a lot of the kind of great consumer technology that we have and apply that to the business. And so help kind of correct that trend by allowing businesses and education to continue to innovate, because we help do the innovation for them. So we do this via our own cloud computing model. In this model, the applications sit in the cloud, accessible from any device at any time in any space. For education, we have something that we call Google Apps for Education, which is basically things like Google Mail, Google Chat, Google Documents, Google Sites, and Google Calendar, which all sit in the cloud, which your students can access and use. Just to kind of give my pitch about what it is, it's something that we give free of charge to education. It's not ad supported. It offers vast amount of storage for your users. It's under your domain and it's branded by you. And plus it has all those advanced integration capabilities so you can plug it into your existing system, because we know that you've spent time and money and effort on your existing infrastructure and you don't want to rip it all out. You just want to basically plug it in so that Google can be running in the back end. So we see three kind of key advantages to this cloud computing model. The first one is that you get to leverage the infrastructure of the provider. And in Google's case, that's a very secure, very reliable, and very redundant infrastructure. It's the same infrastructure that runs google.com. So, it's the same infrastructure that handles millions of dollars of financial transactions every day. And the antidote that I always give that never works in the UK, because everyone says it's the BBC, is the website that I always used to look at before joining Google to see if the internet was up and running was Google. So I think, Google's often synonymous with the internet working. I know in the UK everyone looks at the BBC for that test, but fine. I used to do it the other way. I think the other key benefit of the cloud computing model is that it enables collaboration in a way that just wasn't possible before. In this model, your document sits in the cloud, for example, and it means that you can imagine the scenario where all of us in this room had to update a spreadsheet. Can you imagine if I had to send that spreadsheet out, you all sent me back the revisions, I spent a weekend trying to combine it, someone was working off the wrong version. It's messy and it's a space where we've all been. But in the cloud model, that spreadsheet or that Word document or that presentation sits in the cloud, and we can all be actually accessing and collaborating on it on a real-time environment, so we're all working at it in the same time. It's not a check-in, check-out model. And I think that's huge. That's changed the way that I work today, and it really will help enhance a lot of the academic experiences where, collaboration is key to what we're doing. The third key benefit is really about innovation. So in the cloud computing model, you're no longer reliant on the kind of software cycles to get the new enhancements. In this model, it's about innovation being delivered in smaller, quicker chunks, more frequently. It's really more about identity management. You're plugging in once and then you get to kind of leverage all the innovation moving forward. You get to have all the new enhancements and new features as they come out. It's really about innovating at a huge pace, and we all appreciate that faster is better than slow. So I don't know if anyone's read this book by Nicholas Carr, The Big Switch, but it really talks about, the cloud computing model and how there's a precedent before it. So he talks about how 100 years ago, factories and universities and businesses ran their own power plants, And then along came the electrical grid. So, people nowadays, no factory would think about running their own gas-burning power plant. No university will have a coal-burning fire or water wheel in the back. You just plug in, and electricity is being... Maybe someone does, sorry. you just plug in, and you get the electricity. And we see that, the computing power is going to move very much in that same way. It's becoming more of a commodity. You just plug in and you get to leverage the computing power of your provider. I do suggest everyone reads the book. It's very good. But this challenge, this move to cloud computing is not without challenges. There are things. And I think it's very much of a mindset change. So it's really about making that switch. The story that we always talk about is, my grandmother who keeps her money under the mattress, while I keep my money in the bank. I'm obviously very brave today. I know. You see, it doesn't necessarily work that well in this story. Maybe it's better off under my mattress. But if I choose my bank carefully, if I make sure they have a good credit rating, they don't have any dodgy debt hidden under their mattresses, then I can reap some advantages as well. It means I travel a lot, and I can go to any hole in the wall, I can stick my card in, and I can get money out. I no longer have to think about walking around with traveler's checks. I no longer have to think about changing my money in various cash points. There are some key advantages that I get by keeping my money in the bank. And some risk involved nowadays as well. But it's about that move from the mattress to the bank. It's about that move from your own generator to the electrical grid. But the thankful thing is that there are a lot of people that are doing this today. So a recent Gartner study also showed that in 2010, it's predicted that 10% of all business applications would reside in the cloud. A poll of recent CIOs showed that 70% of them were actually looking at cloud computing today. So cloud computing is a phenomenon that people are embracing. There are key benefits that organizations can gain from this. I think very few organizations today will say that they get a competitive advantage from running their own email system. It's really about refocusing on things that are core to your business that differentiate you from your competitors. So as I said, we have many partners in the education space that are there already. We have many more hopefully coming live soon. We're very keen to partner with the universities and schools to really let them leverage our innovation and leverage our technology. So just summing up so that hopefully I'm staying on target with time. Companies must focus on their core business. Universities must focus on their core business if they're going to succeed in this competitive world. Employees, students, teachers, faculty need better tools. And if you're not going to give it to them, they're going to go out into the consumer space and try and do it themselves. The move to the cloud is imminent. I don't think if you speak to anyone, they'll tell you that this is not something that's going to happen. It's a matter of when, not if. And as you've seen, many are there already. So thank you very much. If you want more information about what Google's doing in the education space, our URL's up there. And we'd be more than happy to talk to anyone who's interested. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.